Yeah, YouTubers, Tasman here, bringing you another episode of Fantasy Grounds Unity from the ground up, and this time it's the Players Edition. Like I did with Foundry, I think this is a good time, after introducing the interface to the GameMaster and talking about how to get everything set up, is to go ahead and create one for the player because you have a completely different process. You don't have to do nearly as much, but we're going to kind of do the same thing, but more from the player's perspective. So for this, I've powered up my second VM, which unfortunately is Windows 11. I do not like Windows 11. I think it's just bad. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and go through the whole process of, as a player, what do I do to get into Foundry Fantasy Grounds. By the way, I apologize ahead of time. I've been making lots of Foundry videos and stuff like that, so even in my Foundry videos, like say Fantasy Grounds, for some reason I always swap out the actual product that I'm talking about. So if I have any of those Freudian slips, forgive me. So the first thing you're going to want to do, if you're setting up Fantasy Grounds as a player and you want to be the free account, obviously, because you don't want to have to pay a lot of money for that, is you go into your favorite browser. I usually do use Google, and just type something like Fantasy Grounds Unity. And you will get something like this, with the first one being fantasygrounds.com. It might also, I think they might have changed it, but there used to also be smiteworks.com. Because that's the actual company that makes Fantasy Grounds, or it's, Smiteworks right there. But maybe it's just fantasygrounds.com now. So if we click on this first link, make sure it's fantasygrounds.com and not, one of these other things. Click on that first link, and the first page that pulls up is the page you need. So we'll just wait for it to pull up real quick. And there will be 3 versions. Now, if you already have an ultimate license or a standard license, you're going to be able to connect to a standard GM's desk tabletop or an ultimate GM's tabletop. But most people don't want to shell out that kind of money just to be a player. So just to give you the price points, basically you could do $3.99 monthly for the standard, or $9.99 monthly for the ultimate, or a one-time price of $39 for the standard and $149 for the ultimate. However, we want free because we're just playing, right? So what you come in here, you choose the free version here, or the demo version. You either choose download or Windows or Mac. In this case, I'm on Windows 11. Goes ahead and download, and now we're just going to go install it. Although it thinks the download's still in process. I didn't let it finish. All right. I think that's good enough. Let's just go ahead and launch this. I think I have like a ghost title here. I don't know what that one says. Oh, let's go to downloads. All right, we're fine. So if we go to downloads now, there's our FGU web installer. And we just double click it. You probably can't see this, but this is the UAC, or the user account control. This is where you have to say, yes, I give permission for this to install. If you do not have admin rights on your system, you will end up needing an administrator to install this for you. But odds are, if you don't have administrator rights on your system, you probably shouldn't be playing games on it. But who knows? Maybe it's your parents. I don't know. So you'll get first the license agreement, these EULAs that everybody reads. Feel free to read it and then click I accept and then click next. Once we are here, we'll see that it's going to install on the C drive. This is the default location. You can change it where you want. I'm going to make it so it's one less directory deep, just making it so it's C program files Fantasy Grounds, because why not? And then we're going to go ahead and hit next. And then this is where it wants the data files. Now the default place it wants to put it is in your user profile, in the app data, in roaming, and then SmiteWorks, and then Fantasy Grounds. And I kind of find this tedious and a pain to do. So I will usually go in, like I do with my Foundry, is just put it in my documents. And then, you know, if other people are going to need to access this, then I actually want to put it on like the C drive directly or another drive so that everyone has access. Generally, your profile stuff only you have access to. But documents is really easy to get to. So I usually put it in there, and I just create a folder in here called Fantasy Grounds. FANTASYGROUNDS. And I'm just call it data. Like so. Now that I have that, I can go into here, click browse, navigate to that. So we could go to libraries, documents, and there's our Fantasy Grounds data. A good idea to go ahead and copy this, because we're going to need it a little later to make sure we're pointing to the right spot. So I'm going to hit Control C there, and then we're going to go ahead and hit install. And it takes a few seconds. You'll see, boom, all done. And it will say I'm now launching the updater. So first thing, I can't talk. First thing that's going to come up with the updater is going to be, do you have an account? And you probably should have an account. Go make sure when you're downloading it that you actually create an account. Otherwise, it's going to give you issues. You do not have to pay anything for an account. It's free. Did that say it was launching it, or I need to launch it? Let's check the, forget. See, one of the dumb things. I can't even get to Task Manager by right-clicking on the bar anymore. It only takes you to taskbar settings. All right, so let's just see, is Fantasy Grounds anything running right now? Does not look like it, so let's just go ahead and launch it. Windows, all apps, and go down to SmiteWorks. And the Fantasy Grounds updater, I believe, is the one we want. Refers, blah, blah, blah. No, hold on. Did I do the wrong one? One thing I did do, I had a little issue uninstalling it because I wanted to make sure it worked in Windows 11 before I started doing a tutorial in it. Let's try that one. You want to delete this shortcut? Yes. Alright, so I think when I uninstalled it, it didn't completely uninstall properly. This one might work. But I want to go delete this guy. Actually, it looks like it removed it all by itself. Alright, so if we click on Fantasy Grounds, maybe that'll work. Nope. Alright, so let's go find it, and we'll just launch it manually. That's how we roll, I guess. Generally what it will do is it'll create a desktop shortcut, it will create your start menu shortcut, all that fun stuff. In this case, we're just going to go into program files where Fantasy Grounds was, click on it, and go ahead and click the updater in here. So this is going to create all our key files. If we want to have a shortcut on our desktop, we can click and drag it, but before we release, because this is the actual executable, hold down Alt to create a link. So this will just create a link instead of the actual installer, or the copying out the installer. We could also do this. Oh, it remembers my info. Dang it. That's okay. So basically, when it first comes up, it'll basically pop into this screen, and it will say, "Hey, you need to log in. If you don't have a license key, that's not a big deal." I usually turn this to like 80 or something. So this will be whatever you logged into Fantasy Grounds with. Then the next one will actually have something talking about, hey, let's go ahead and make sure this is where your path is. So you can actually click here and add it if it doesn't pop it up. Your build channel, all that fun stuff. Most of this other stuff you can just ignore. The big thing is your username and password, and then click login so that it says successful. Let's see. I think that's it. That's it. And then also under advanced, you want to just make sure that it's pointing to that directory that we created. Once you've done that, you can click save, and then you can click update. And this will take a minute. I mean, it has lots of files. It's downloading all the different rule sets. It's you know, downloading everything you need to, you know, your table and all the stuff. There's actually quite a bit of stuff. There it goes. So, you know, here's the actual Fantasy Grounds app itself. It's updating that. Here's different rule sets, the 2E, 3.5, 4E, 5E, 5E add-ons. 5E is definitely one of the larger ones. However, it also supports, you know, Pathfinder. Core RPG is just the base core stuff. Cypher, Fate. You know, it's going to download all this stuff regardless. So you just, you know, have to have it. But it's not going to take up that much. There's Pathfinder. Starfinder. I want to say that's Star Wars or something. I'm not 100% sure. And Vortex Games. I don't know what that one is. So once it's done, you can actually do that. Now, I did say create that shortcut. I did that a little early, but I usually like to have my launcher, instead of be the upgrade one or the update one, is actually set it to be just the Fantasy Grounds one. So I'm going to hold Alt again on that one, because that way it loads this screen instead of the other one. All right, so now that we have that little confusing time, you will be greeted with this page right here. And some key things to note on this page. I'm going to make sure that it kind of fills in our window here. Is we have, you know, when we're joining a campaign, all we need is this. However, inside the center area, we actually have all kinds of information. We have the user manual, basic guides, game systems for more info on those, DLC store, which will take you to Smiteworks store, the forum, Discord, frequently asked questions, contact support, release notes for the version you're running, and then a quick start guide. So these are very handy. Basically, if you move into something like this, and I can delete you for now, if I click that again, it goes back to the quick start guide. If this button has a red border around it, generally that means there is an update, and you should probably click that and let it go ahead and upgrade everything so that you're going to be the same version as the table you're joining, because most tables usually stay up to date. All right, so let's go ahead and click Join Campaign, and we'll talk just a little bit about that. So in the Join Campaign screen, we have this history, and as you saw, there was actually a Tasman there, but this will be completely empty when you first get in. And this will be all the tables that you've joined in the past. If your GM is hosting a table but it's set to private, what you would do is type in the GM name here, and then you could click start, and that will actually join the table without having to select it from the visible ones. If you know the GM's name also, you can search it really quick here. This is, you don't search by the actual table name, but you search by the GM name. If it has this little green dot, of course that means online. This little thing that kind of looks like a person to me is actually a little padlock, and tells you whether it's password protected or not. And then there's the GM's name. So I think the majority of these things, well, there's one that's not locked. I was going to say, I think almost every one of them are locked, but it looks like right here is one that is unlocked. And if we click on that, we can click start, and we could join their game. Now, some other things, we're going to actually go search my game, T4ZZM4NN, and go ahead and just, I didn't have to hit anything. It automatically will search as it goes. But here you can see is my table. It's password protected. And this is our bare bones world. So some things I want to point out is if you're a local, the same network, you know, you're at the same table, or your GM is set up port forwarding, at that point it might not be hosted here. This is only if they choose to host it in the cloud. If they give you IP information or something like that, an IP address, this is where you will type that. You will actually do the join LAN game. You'll type in the IP address. If they give you a default different port, then you would type that there. The default port is 1802, and rarely do people really change that. So more than likely you won't have to type anything in there. It will default to the 1802. So now joining our cloud game, what we want to do is click on the little Tasman here, because that's our game we want, and then we're going to click start. Now the first thing that's going to pop up is going to look like, well, I don't know, hopefully you can see this. I imagine you can, because my screen recorder is just recording the screen and everything on it. So we definitely want to allow access. Once again, this is going to create a firewall rule in Windows Firewall to allow Fantasy Grounds to access the internet and allow internet connections back in. So because as the shield, you will get a little thing saying, are you sure, sometimes with the UAC. Or if you've already, you know, if you're admin, you might not get that. But it will kind of look like you get an error as soon as it goes. And this is because it's going to try and connect instantly with a null password or no password at all. So you'll want to put in your thing here. Now I set mine to T4ZZR0, the number 0XX. So put in the password, hit retry, and you should be getting this acquire file list, which is saying that everything is working. Now on the GM side of thing, if I go over here and wiggle the mouse, you'll actually see here that it's saying that it's thinking a lot. But you might be able to kind of see this. It's saying that an unlicensed user is trying to connect. So now it's switching to demo mode. Now I'm not sure why it tells you that twice, but then here it's telling you who is actually connecting. So we can see that T-Derby is connecting. And if we come in here, what this is actually doing, this is getting all the information from the table, getting modules that are available, you know, whatever the GM has made available to you, it's bringing that to you. So once your table comes up, we're going to see a little pop-up. Now I'm just going to close that. If you want, you can follow through it, but I usually close it because I want to show you where those options are if you decide to change them later on. So we're going to set those same options but manually. So this little pop-up right here, the campaign setup, is basically, once again, showing you the user manual, the wiki guides, and the form. I usually turn off the show on load because I already know these things and I know where to get them. The next thing it's going to do is say, all right, well, you're probably going to need some modules. And this is where you would click and you could select the modules that you're going to choose. We're not going to do anything here once again. And then we have finished. We also have the options, right, to go into the options, set up different things. So I usually just close that out. Don't even go through it because I like to have more control over what I'm doing. So what we're going to do, I think we're going to end this video because we're right around 20 minutes, but we're going to do these last couple steps. Then in the next video or videos, we're going to go over this entire interface, talking about what the different components are, what they do, and stuff like that. You'll also notice that behind that window popped up a character selection. Now, this is where you choose the character you're going to be. Once you've selected a character, and we only have one here, it will pop up in this area right here with your actual name. So it'll say, well, let's just click it. You'll see. So I click it, and now you can see it says Tazzy. Right now, there's not a portrait on it because we don't have one, but this is our character. If we ever need to access our character sheet, we can simply click that once, and boom, there it is. So let's talk about really quick the different options that it was asking us about and where those options are. So first of all, if we go under the Tools menu here, we can click on Options. And this is the main options that was talked about at the very end. If we want that little window to pop up again, for whatever reason, you just click the setup button inside options, and there you go, right? So that basically covers, you know, this section right here. The only other section we have is to actually load modules. So we will be going over all this stuff in just a little bit in our upcoming videos. But this is where you get the options. If you need that setup window for whatever you want it back, there it is right there. To get to where it was talking about loading modules, we click on the library here. So we do that, and now you can see we have a modules button. We can click on that, and then we can see no modules are currently loaded. If we go look at, for example, character and go look at classes, you can see it's completely empty. If we go ahead and click activation, now any modules that our GM is sharing with us will be made available here. Now, if you actually are running a non-free version of Fantasy Grounds, you might also have other modules in here that are local. The way you can usually tell if they're local or if they're being hosted remote is you get this little tiny web icon right here saying that it's being shared through the web. So once we've done that, we can just simply come in here, click load. This little book will turn to an open icon to tell us it is now loaded, and we can close this. If we click on our loaded SRD here, for example, we can actually see all its contents. We have tables, backgrounds, classes, equipments, feats, races, reference manual, which is basically opening it like a book, skills and spells. So if we go in here and say, for example, classes, we're going to see all the classes that it has to offer. If we go to the reference manual, like I said, this basically opens it up as if it were like a book, and we can just go through all the sections, check out the dwarf, we click on the little eye here and get information about that. This same information is also accessible now by clicking here. If we click on classes, now it's populated, as is races and backgrounds and all the other spells, items, all that fun stuff. One thing to note about this is SRD. So on backgrounds, we have a single one. We have the Acolyte. Under feats, we have a single one. We have Grappler, right? So this basically gets you set up. So now you're connected to your GM's table. You have a character selected. You have your module loaded, or modules if your GM has multiple. You just click on that little load button, wait for the book to look like it opens, and that's it. In the next episodes that we're going to have, it's probably going to be multiple, we're going to actually go through all the components on the interface here so that you can understand them and be able to utilize them at their fullest. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord and my other channels. And don't forget to tell other people about my channel. They can watch the video. If they like what they see, they can sub. We can grow the channel. Everyone wins. And that is it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.